Hello and welcome back to the We Are Birmingham Blue preview. My name's Luke Stokes and joining me this week is Mike Duffy from the Voices of the Vic podcast. Mike, welcome to the show, mate. Thanks for joining us.
No, thank you very much for having me. Looking forward to getting chatting about the game on Saturday.
Yeah, it's great to have you on, mate. I think first thing to start from a Blues point of view is what a difference a week can make in football. I think if we were doing this show and this interview and this podcast, whatever you want to call it, on Saturday or Sunday, the mood would have been completely different. There'd have been no optimism at all coming into this for me. I'd probably be predicting a 5-0 Watford. But all of a sudden, we heard rumours on Sunday that Karanka was going. Basically, took ages to confirm, and he has gone. And Lebo's come in. And I'll be honest, after watching that performance last night, I've got every hope for Blues staying up this season, which is crazy to think where we were on Sunday and after Saturday's game, particularly in terms of morale around the club. I don't know if you had a chance to watch the game last night, mate, but what were your thoughts on Blues, really, just if you did get to watch it or before Saturday? You know, are you worried now that Lebo has come in and is going to make a bit of an impact on Saturday's game?
Yeah, I didn't actually watch the game last night, but
Yeah.
I spoke on my podcast. You know, we recorded a podcast yesterday, and the news was announced that Lee Bowyer was coming in, and I sort of said on my podcast that, you know, Blues, as I'm sure you guys are aware, you were looking dead and buried under Karanka, like no hope at all. So I was thinking, right, okay, routine 3 points. A bit naive of me to think that as a Watford fan, because no point is an easy. No, there's no easy games in the Championship, regardless of how poor a team is playing. And then obviously Karanka's been sacked, so straight away, even before you hearing about who's coming in, you've got that new manager bounce aspect which will come into play.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you've got an appointed a player who was full of fight, full of passion. Something which I'm sure you Blues fans wanted from the Blues players. He won the League Cup with you, so we'll know what it means to play for Blues.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was a little bit scared, to be honest. Yes, we've got the best home record in the division, so that sort of still maybe carries a bit of emphasis for me, but it's certainly not going to be the game it would have been under Karanka against you boys. So I'm expecting a very, very tough side, a tough game.
Definitely, mate. Like I said, the transformation last night from just 90 minutes and one day on the training ground with Lee Bowyer has been quite unbelievable, to be honest. And like I said, there's optimism back for us. Just to clarify, before we go any further, you are a Watford fan, and there is a Brummie accent there. Do you want to explain to people watching where that's come from?
Yeah, so I was born in Solihull, grew up in Acock Green, so yeah, surrounded by Blues supporting mates. But my old man was born in Watford General Hospital, which is the hospital right next door to the ground. So I sort of carried that from a young age, really. So my first Watford game was in 2001, and I'll say I've not looked back since. There's been some hairy moments, but it's been all right overall. So
That's
yeah,
it.
I do get a bit of stick for not supporting a Midlands club with an accent that sticks out like this one.
That's it. I just we're clearing it up, mate. I guess I've never seen a Brummie Watford fan before, so I don't think there's too many of those about. So fair play. Like I said, I think you've enjoyed football a little bit more than us in recent years, but like you said, ups and downs along the way as well. Similar sort of club in that respect. So let's talk about Watford then. Going into the game on Saturday, second in the league, 8 wins out of 9, absolutely flying. Just talk us through the season so far for Watford and how you felt as a Watford fan watching it.
Yeah, it's funny you say, you know, we are just talking about it being an up and down ride. It's been up and down this season as well. You know, we started with Ivic. We was told he was an attacking coach. He brought this phenomenal record over from the Israeli League. And yes, the Israeli League is no comparison to the second tier of English football. But if you've got that winner's mentality, it helps. Obviously, just coming down from the Premier League, a lot of people would have expected us to come straight back up, especially with the squad we've got on paper. And yes, football isn't played on paper. I think Stoke probably learned that the hard way. I think the first season they come down, their team on paper looked incredible. It didn't quite work out. So obviously we're very, very wary of it not quite working out that way. So it was going all right. We knew that he liked to get a couple of goals ahead and then shut up shop, but he never really had a fully fit side, fully strength side to his disposal. So it was quite negative at times. And, you know, in true Watford fashion, there was calls for his head. And it was the Huddersfield away game. We lost 2-0, which was the the straw that broke the camel's back in essence, really. So then obviously Munoz has come in from the Georgian league. We like to pick out these managers from some obscene leagues, and I think he won the title there. He only managed, it's a very short season over there. So he's played for Valencia and he's played for a few top flight teams in Spain. So he's quite young himself, and he was brought in. Perfect yes man, because straight away, the first press conference he smiled. Ivic never did that. Ivic was very stone-faced. You could tell that if something was wrong behind the training, beyond the scenes, I wouldn't feel like he was approachable because he was very stern-looking and very serious. Whereas Munoz straight away has brought that feel-good factor back to the club. His first game, one hell of a baptism of fire was Norwich at home, and we won 1-0. And the togetherness just after that performance, we thought, right, we could be cooking with gas here. And then it won't surprise many Blues fans to know, or many football fans in general to know, that it wasn't long before supporters were calling for his head. There was a game we drew at Coventry, at St Andrews against Coventry, and it was 0-0. And it was the most disheartening football match I think I've ever watched. And, some people have found it tough in lockdown to really get into football. I'm lucky that I'm not that way inclined. I'll love football regardless, but it really tested my patience, that game did. Munoz was very stubborn with his 4-4-2. Andre Gray and Troy Deeney up front. Yes, again, on paper, it probably sounds very, very good, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, they've not been clicking this season. So he was very reluctant to sort of change it. And then Bristol City, there were some idiotic fans that were even saying, you know what, I'll take a loss here against Bristol City if it means it gets sacked. I don't think you can't, yes, people have bad moments as managers, but I would never, ever sit there and want my team to lose just because he loses his job. So, and I'm sure you guys may have experienced the same under Karanka. I don't know if there was many calls for you to lose games so that he'd go, but I think it's ludicrous. So, luckily, he changed the formation, which is what we've wanted all season. And we won 6-0, and we've not looked back since. So it's been real up and down, but we've clicked at the right time, I think. Eight wins in the last 9, as you say. I think Derby did us a favour the other night against Brentford, and then Bournemouth did us a favour against Swansea. So hopefully the results are going to start going our way as well. But yeah, real up and down season. Nothing less than I'd expect with Watford. I've seen it all at Watford, so luckily I'm well prepared.
Watford are probably one of the only clubs, mate, that can compete with Blues in terms of the number of managers that you have every year, actually. In terms of the number, I haven't got the exact number, but I know it's pretty close over the last few seasons. Interesting what you said there about changing manager and the sort of feel that you got from a certain manager and then moving on to a new one. The sort of sternness and the unapproachableness of Ivic, and then the new man comes in and he looks much more approachable. It's exactly the same feeling that me and I'm sure a lot of other Blues fans had from that Lee Bowyer first interview coming in from Aitor Karanka after seeing Karanka's post-match interviews for the last 6 to 8 weeks being just full of shrugs and depressive remarks and calling out players, all sorts of stuff. So you're exactly right in that. It's the same story with us in terms of that. And about the thing about asking for the team to lose, I think if we were in the playoffs or around the playoffs and we were losing games, I don't think there'd be people that were calling for the manager out, and to lose a game. But the point where we were in the season, and I think it's probably the only time that I've really not been bothered about the results, just bothered about trying to sort the club out, is the sense that we all sort of thought, well, if he stays, we're going down anyway. So if by us losing and getting someone in, that could be a chance, I think a lot of Blues fans would have taken it. But I know what you say in terms of you never want your team to lose. We'd have took 1-0 to stay up and die to Granca, absolutely, but we just couldn't see anything coming. So I think it's a slightly different scenario there, and I completely understand what you're saying. If we were at that end of the table, we'd definitely be wanting us to get those points over the line. We touched about, before we come on, about Troy Deeney, obviously the Blues connection there, but you've got some great attacking options in that team. Sarr, João Pedro, Troy Deeney, Sema. There's some great players in that team. I know Troy's been injured, as you said to me before we came on recently, but just talk to us about some of those players and the attacking options you've got at that football club.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're just really starting to see the attack attacking prowess that we've got now with this formation change to a 4-4-3. You mentioned João Pedro. He's, come over from Fluminense, which is the same team that we got Richarlison from as well a couple of seasons ago. He's set himself a target of 15. It's very rare that you hear strikers now actually come out and say, yeah, this is how many goals I want to get. He's on 9 at the moment. And he's taken like a duck to water. It's his first full season in English football, and he's been asked to play in one of the most physical leagues in England. In the form of the Championship. He's put on 7 kilograms of muscle, so that because it's quite. There's not much to him. So he'll drop deep. He's not scared to win the ball back and drop deep, and then bring others into play. And then the two on the side of him, Ken Sema, we had him a couple of seasons ago. He had a loan spell at Udinese in Serie A, our sister club, last season. Looked to have done him the world of goods because, again, he's come over, played for us so far this season, and he's earned himself a call up yesterday, I think it was, to the Swedish national side. So that probably just goes to show how well he's been doing. And, he's been a key part of our season. And then Ismail Assar sort of goes without saying, although I will say there were a few Watford fans that earlier in the season would have been quite happy to see maybe Ismail Assar sit out for a couple of games. And I know from a neutral's perspective that might seem mad because, that game that sticks out in my mind, and I'm sure many fans' minds, is that game that we had against Liverpool where we won and he ran the show completely. Yeah. So you think if he's doing that against the they were the champions elect at the time, if he's then going into the Championship, you think he's going to, cruise through it. But he's perhaps found it a little bit more physical than he perhaps thought. Obviously, under Ivic, we weren't as progressive and it was quite negative at times. So you could tell, like, he still does it now, but he'll run at a defender. And I think he perhaps forgets how quick he is and how skillful he is. And he'll sort of look to pass the ball back. In terms of passing the ball back now and sort of stopping, he doesn't do that as much because the confidence that he's got at the moment, he's on fire. He's another one that's got 9 goals. There is a little bit of worrying news. Touchwood, he's all right, but he come off injured against Rotherham, and he's having an MRI scan tonight. So we should either find out tonight or tomorrow whether he's fit for the Blues game, and then he goes off to join Senegal for the international break, and then we've got a chap from Norway called Philip Zinkernagel, who is in like the top 6 assist and goal scorers in Europe. Now, granted, we talked about different leagues compared to the Championship. This was in Norway that he'd done this. I think he'd got 20 odd assists and 20 odd goals as well last season for Bodo Glimt. And we're not playing him yet in his correct position, but he's really starting to come into his own. He's got, he's got the confidence with this run of games that he's had. And then Will Hughes and Nathaniel Chalobah have been absolutely superb as well. Granted, Will Hughes isn't as attacking, but in terms of bringing players into the game and sort of linking the play up, he's brilliant. And Nathaniel Chalobah's been absolutely superb these last few games as well. So in terms of attacking options, we really, really have. And we've got Isaac Success that's just coming back. Granted, if there's any Watford fans listening, they're probably laughing at me for mentioning his name, but he's a big unit of a guy. And then we've got Andre Gray, who's not enjoyed the best of seasons so far, but yeah, probably the less said about him, the better. But in terms of attacking wise, probably the best I've seen from us for quite some time.
With the Ismail Assar points that you made at the start there, mate, I think the Championship is one of those leagues where it's just unforgiving, isn't it? And like you said, it's completely different league. The Premier League, physicality, completely different. And start of the season, there was rumours about Assar going to Liverpool potentially as a squad player. Like you said, he set the league alight. Maybe that distracted him at the start of the season. And João Pedro, I remember watching the first game of the season that you guys played, and I think he got man of the match or something. And you just sort of thought straight away, wow, this kid's come in out of nowhere from Brazil. And you're expecting him to struggle, if anybody, because of the nature of the league, and he sort of found himself at home. And if he's gone away and put some muscle on and adapted to the league already, 9 goals already in the league that he's got, it's a credit to him, to be fair, and it shows what a top player he is. Bit of a football manager, Jem, as well. Any players out there that are watching it, he's very good on that as well. So watch out for him on the game. But in terms of Watford, yeah, he's definitely a player to look out for, and they're all youthful players at that top end of the pitch. Obviously, I know Troy, not so much, and Andre Gray, but those 3 three that you touched on, sorry, potentially for the future. Someone that's a bit more experienced and Blues fans know very well is Ben Foster. I know that he's been out injured for you recently, and he's probably not going to get back in that team maybe anytime soon because of how well you've been playing and on the run that you are on. 10 years since he won the cup, and he's obviously our cup winning goalkeeper. But what have you made of his YouTube channel? Because people at home that are watching might have seen a bit of it. I haven't watched too many of the videos, I have to be honest. But what have you made of it from a Watford point of view? Have any fans been sort of against it, distracting from the team, from the football club, or are people embracing it?
A lot of fans have been against it because they think it has been distracting. Listen, I think a lot of people forget that these guys aren't getting any younger. So Ben Foster's 37 now. I don't know what his current contract situation is. It might run out in the summer. It might be next year. Same with Troy. We've since learned that he's had a contract extension to 2022. It was due to run out in summer. But these guys have got to think ahead now to what the next venture is going to be. And, Troy going on Talk Sport, is the breakfast show co-host, although he hasn't been on it for a couple of weeks. And then Ben Foster obviously having his YouTube channel and having an agreement with the EFL, and any money that he gets from it, he gives to charity. So I personally don't have a problem with it, but a few people have said that it can be distracting. He did a podcast with the Happy Hour podcast with Jack, mate, recently.
Yeah, listen to it, mate. It's good. It's a good one.
Yeah, it's very good. But there were a few things in there which he said, which I think he was only saying because I don't think he wanted to come across as one of them footballers that would go on his podcast and then not hardly give away any answers. He was very open and he sort of read the room very well. But there was I think he said when we lost to Swansea, their player celebrated in front of the GoPro, and Foster jokingly suggested that in the changing room they were like, "Oh, he's celebrating in front of the GoPro," and he was like, "Well, oh well." And then he jokingly said that he was thinking about what title he was going to put on the video, and there's stuff like that. Yeah, I understand why he said it because he's trying to have a laugh on the podcast, but it does make you think maybe. Has he worried more about his YouTube career than his goalkeeping career? But look, on a whole, I love the videos. I've watched every single one of them. But on a whole, as I know he was for you boys, he's been absolutely superb for us. Yes, we went down last season, but we would have been in a much worse position last season if it wasn't for Fozzie. He's produced some brilliant saves, and likewise this season as well. And luckily, our second choice goalkeeper, or now first choice goalkeeper, Dan Backman's been able to sort of fill his shoes or fill his gloves, if you like, and he's been the perfect replacement for him. And I don't think there'd be many moans or groans if Backman kept that number one spot for the rest of the season. But listen, Fozzie's a legend. I've not got a problem with the videos personally, but you will find a lot of Watford fans that do not like the fact that he's doing these videos.
He's definitely got a great personality, hasn't he? And that comes across in all the interviews that he does do. And I think it's rare now. I think you're starting to see more of it with the younger players, but players from when Ben Foster's been playing in that era are very robotic in their interviews and very PR trained and stuff. And now the younger players like Maddison and people like that are coming out and doing interviews that are more honest. I think it's good that you can see a side of the footballers behind the scenes. But I absolutely understand where the fans are coming from in terms of, the comment that he did make, the one you're referring to there, could be taken any way. He's either saying it as a bit of a laugh because he's in a podcast with a fellow YouTuber and he's sort of trying to read the room, like you said, and get in with that. Or it can be a sort of, well, if you're not bothered about conceding goals, why are you playing for my football club? And I think maybe the older fans that don't understand that YouTube digital world as much would hear that clip or soundbite and think, oh, that's not right. That's not what we want playing for our football club. And really, it's probably been taken a little bit out of context for the people that don't understand it. But yeah, you can't say anything bad about Ben Foster from a football point of view. And really, as a bloke, like you said, he comes across really well. He was brilliant for us, and he's been brilliant for you, hasn't he?
There was a video, and it's funny you say that. Obviously, the older people might not get the sort of YouTube. It's actually the opposite, mate. The younger fans on social media have been slating him more than the older fans. I think the older fans have been perhaps a little bit more sort of understanding of it and saying, well, look, he does need to sort of look ahead now because he's 37. He's probably going to retire soon. But it's evident that he loves the club. He's mentioned it a couple of times. But there was a brilliant video last season, funnily enough, when we played Liverpool, and there was a mascot who he went to see earlier in the season.
Yeah.
And I think she was a young girl and she was recovering from cancer. I think she had leukemia. And he said, we'll sort you some tickets and you can be mascot. And they filmed the whole day. And Fozzie was just unbelievable with her throughout, and he was making sure that everything was spot on for her. So, as you say, he's one of the nicest guys in football. You'll other than the young sort of Watford fans that don't like his YouTube stuff, if you actually asked him in terms of himself, his personality, forget his YouTube, I don't think you'll find any football fan that has a bad word to say about him, because he comes across as a genuine top bloke.
Yeah, I think anybody in football, mate. I think anybody in football that knows him would have a bad word to say about him, because, like you say, he comes across as that. And it was great to watch him at Blues, and it was great to watch him at Watford last season. Like you said, even though he did go down, he was a terrific keeper. He made so many saves. I think he's got the record number of saves in the Premier League from what I've heard on the podcast. But then he also said he's conceded the most goals in the Premier League ever, didn't he? So
I didn't realise he had that, because I knew about the most saves in the Premier League, but when he brought that other one up, that did make me chuckle.
Yeah. So obviously hopefully he won't be playing from a Blues point of view, because it's a shame that the fans can't be there to welcome him back. But also, I think, like you said, the backman's come in and sort of played really well anyway. So he probably won't be in the side at the weekend, Foster, to watch out for. But is there any more team news coming in for it from Watford, mate? I mean, from a Blues point of view, Jeremy Bella slightly injured last night. He lasted 15 minutes and came off after his injury after a tough tackle. But I think that's about it. I think Troy's coming back from an injury and might not probably be back for the Blues game. He does like a goal against us at St Andrews. So I know we're away at Watford this time.
He does, yeah.
But what's the situation?
He's got 5 in 7 against the Blues, Troy has, so he loves playing you guys. But he's not quite, I don't know whether he's still in that sort of surgical boot that they wear, but he ruptured his Achilles. So they've said tonight that he's showing progress of good signs from the scan. I think the only injury worry, or other than the long-term injuries, Tom Cleverley's still out. He's not going to be back till after the international break, and we've seemed to cope without him, which is good, because he's an absolute workhorse. And then I think the only other one, really, the main one, is Ismail Assar. Like I say, we'll find out tonight and tomorrow. Tonight or tomorrow, they've told us on whether he can play. I mean, if he can't, yes, it's gutting, but we've got people that can play in his position, and we've got backup. So whether it would be on the same level as Sarr, probably not. But I'm confident that we can fill his space if he's not there, and the person to still have a good enough game. So I think Sarr's the only one, really. Gosling come back for us against Rotherham and scored. And we just brought in Carlos Sanchez as well, as I'm sure you boys will know from down the road. I don't think there's any major injury problems that we've got at the moment, luckily.
Okay, superb. So as well as the players to look out for in terms of the injury front, I'm sure in this run of 8 wins in 9, there's been some standout players from yourself that you've seen from Watford and have performed really well. We've talked about the attacking players, so feel free to name one of them. But is there anybody in that team who you really think without them in the side you'd be a lot worse off?
Yeah, and the stats are there to sort of produce that. Me backing on what I'm about to say. Francisco Sierralta, who we brought in from Udinese, Chilean centre-back, he's only 23 as well, scored his first goal for the club against Rotherham in the week on Tuesday. He has been an absolute man-mountain, an absolute rock at the back. And he's forged a partnership with Troost-Ekong, who's captain of the Nigeria side. Troost-Ekong, he's had a couple of shaky games, but they seem to generally work well on a whole. But Sierralta has been, I don't have the stats with me at the moment. I saw one earlier, but I think it's something like 8 clean sheets or something, and he's not played every single game. I think the mad thing for us Watford fans is he played in the League Cup against Oxford earlier this season, and he was okay. And then we lost in the League Cup to Newport, and he wasn't very good then. And then any time he was on the bench was like, please don't have an injury, because he was awful that game. And then he broke into the side because Cabaselli got injured and a few other injuries at centre back, and he's made that place his own. He's just anything in the air, he sweeps up. I think he's got 70% aerial win duel ratio, and he's not played many games. And yeah, he's just looking incredible, and he's only 23 as well. We've said it on our podcast, and loads of Watford fans say if we don't go up this season, he'll be snapped up by a top half Premier League side next season. That's 100%.
That's an interesting one, mate. Be honest, I've not heard him mentioned all season. He's not been on, he's gone under the radar a little bit, I think, from a Watford point of view. And it's interesting you say about a centre half, because Lee Bowyer's gone with 4-4-2. It's what he prefers. He likes playing two strikers. So I can see maybe Lukas Jukovic putting onto him as a sort of slightly inexperienced centre-half in the Championship and seeing if he can cause him some problems. Now, of course, I'm sure centre-halves like to pass. One of them likes to mark the quick, shorter player, and one of them likes to mark the big target man. So it'll be interesting how they deal with Juki, especially after he got a goal the other night. And it seems like Lee Bowyer wants to put the ball in the box, and that's the way we're going to be playing. So that'll be a really interesting battle, I think, mate, moving forward into the game on Saturday. So that's a great shout from you, actually, a centre-half to watch out for. It's going to be a key battle in the game. I think we've touched on all things Watford and Blues, mate, to be honest. And I think now the only place to leave it is with a score prediction. From a Blues point of view going into this is the most confident I've been in probably the last 3 months at least, probably 6. Renewed optimism all of a sudden. We've beat 5th place Reading 2-1, and nobody expects us to do that. Yeah, Watford are absolutely flying, but this was a free hit for us, and we've got 3 points in the bag now that we didn't think we'd have, being honest, last weekend coming into the Watford game. So I'm going to go for a 1-0 Blues. Blind optimism, only the fact that we only conceded the other night from a mistake from Neil Etheridge from a set piece, and we look pretty solid. So I'm just hoping that the momentum can tick over into that Watford game and Blues can nick something. But from a Watford point of view, how are you feeling going into this one?
Yeah, a little bit wary, obviously, of Bowie coming in. Even when Karanka was in, I think we would have made hard work of it, but I think we would have won comfortably. That home form, at the moment at home, we just look a different animal. So I'm expecting a tougher game now. My worry is Backman has, over the last few weeks, has improved, but generally when teams try and get the ball in the box, he can flap a bit at it, and I do worry there because obviously Duke, he's a threat in the air. That's no secret to anyone. So I'm going to go 2-1 to Watford. I think we'll just see it through purely because I think we're flying at the moment. Momentum is high and the lads are full of confidence. So I'm going to go 2-1, but it is going to be a tightly contested game, and it's it's not taking some beating here, but it's going to be a lot better than the game that was St Andrews earlier this season, because that was a horrible watch for both sides. So yeah, 2-1 I'm going to go.
It really was, mate. It really was a horrible watch. Let's hope it's a better game for the neutral and for both sets of fans. All that's left to say, Mike, is thanks for joining us, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure interviewing you. A Brummie from the Watford camp. All the best for Saturday. Obviously, I hope Blues continue the momentum going in, but let's hope that the best team wins on the day. And all the best for the rest of the season after Saturday's game.
Thank you very much. You too, mate.
Thank you very much, bud. So that's all from the We Are Birmingham Blue preview this week. Thanks for Mike for joining us. If you haven't already, give the latest episode of the We Are Birmingham podcast a listen and get your predictions in the Prediction League before Saturday's game with Watford as well, because that's getting tight now at the top of that table. Enjoy the game on Saturday. It's the first time we've said it in a number of weeks. We can actually go into this one looking forward to Blues playing a football match. Unbelievable. So until next time, thanks for watching Blue Preview and keep right on.